The Jeffrey Epstein files. Everything they didn't want you to see. What if I told you? The US government had millions of pages of evidence about one of the biggest scandals in American history and kept it hidden for over 2 decades. Well, the files are finally out, and what's inside them will absolutely blow your mind. Hey guys, welcome back to Deception Reports. If you're new here, buckle up, because today, we're going deep. We're talking about the Jeffrey Epstein files. Over 3.5 million pages of documents, 2,000 plus videos, and 180,000 images that the US Department of Justice just dumped on the public. Presidents, billionaires, royalty, Hollywood there, ALL in there. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is not clickbait. This is documented, government-released information. And today, I'm going to break down every single thing you need to know. Who Jeffrey Epstein was, what he did, who helped him, who knew about it, what the files actually reveal, and why so much of it is still being hidden from you. So hit that like button, sit back, and let's get into it. Who was Jeffrey Epstein? Let's start from the beginning, because to understand the scandal, you need to understand the man. Jeffrey Epstein was born in 1953 in Brooklyn, New York. He wasn't from a rich family. He was a math teacher who somehow ended up becoming one of the most powerful financiers in the world. He dropped out of college, landed a teaching job at the Dalton School in New York through a connection, and from there, somehow got a foot in the door at the investment bank Bear Stearns. He impressed the right people, built his network, and eventually launched his own mysterious financial firm called J. Epstein & Co. Here's the weird thing. Nobody really knew what his business actually was. He claimed to manage money only for billionaires, with at least $1 billion. His client list was a secret. His income was a secret. His entire operation was a secret. But what wasn't a secret was his lifestyle. He owned a 72,000 square foot mansion in Manhattan, one of the largest private homes in New York City. A private island in the US Virgin Islands called Little St. James, nicknamed Pedophile Island by locals. There was a ranch in New Mexico, a mansion in Palm Beach. Florida, multiple private jets, including one that would become infamously known as the Lolita Express. This man lived like a king, and powerful people from all over the world, politicians, celebrities, scientists, royals, were happy to be around him. But behind the curtain of wealth and connections was something truly horrifying. The crimes what Epstein actually did. Now, here's where it gets dark, and I want to warn you, this is disturbing, but it's important. Starting in the late 1990s and continuing through the 2000s, Jeffrey Epstein ran what federal prosecutors would later call a child sex trafficking operation. He recruited young girls, many of them as young as 14 years old, often targeting girls from poor or broken homes. His staff would approach them, sometimes at shopping malls, sometimes through referrals. They'd be offered money, maybe $200 or $300 to come to Epstein's mansion and give him a massage. What happened in those mansions was not massage therapy. These girls were sexually abused. And then this is the truly horrifying part. They were often encouraged or pressured to recruit other girls. It wasn't just Epstein. He had a network of enablers around him, staff who scheduled the appointments, assistants who fanned cash on tables near his bed, employees who cleaned up after him, and at the center of it all, allegedly managing the whole operation, was his girlfriend and accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell. Ghislaine Maxwell, the woman behind the curtain, Ghislaine Maxwell, is the daughter of Robert Maxwell, a British media tycoon who died under mysterious circumstances in 1991. After her father's death, Ghislaine moved in wealthy circles and eventually became romantically involved with Epstein. She became his closest associate. According to prosecutors and victims, Maxwell recruited young girls for Epstein-groomed victims, making them feel comfortable before the abuse began, participated in the abuse herself. According to multiple accusers, helped manage Epstein's properties and lifestyle. In 2021, Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested and put on trial. In December 2021, she was found guilty on 5 counts, including sex trafficking of minors. She is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence. The sweetheart deal, how Epstein got away with it. Here's where the story gets infuriating. The FBI started investigating Epstein back in 2006. Multiple underage girls came forward. Investigators gathered evidence. A federal prosecutor wrote up a 60-count indictment, charging not just Epstein, but 3 of his associates as well. They were ready to bring him down. But then, something happened. The U.S. attorney in Miami at the time, a man named Alexander Acosta, signed off on a deal that let Epstein avoid federal prosecution entirely, instead of bringing the 60-count indictment against the 4 people. Federal prosecutors in 2007 reached a non-prosecution agreement with Epstein, who avoided federal charges and served only 13 months in state prison over state prostitution charges. Think about that. A 60-count federal indictment gone, replaced with a quiet deal. Epstein served barely over a year in a walk-release arrangement where he was allowed to leave his cell for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. His victims weren't even told about the deal. Prosecutors hid it from them, which was later found to violate the law. Acosta later became Trump's Secretary of Labor, and when the deal came to light publicly in 2018, he was forced to resign. The 2019 arrest and Epstein's death in July 2019. Epstein was arrested again, this time by federal authorities in New York. The charges were sex trafficking of minors and conspiracy. He was placed in the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City. Prosecutors wanted him detained because they found inside his Manhattan mansion an expired passport with his picture and a fake name, listing a Saudi Arabian residence showing he could be a serious flight risk. Then, on August 10, 2019, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his jail cell. The official ruling: suicide by hanging. But here's where it gets deeply suspicious. The cameras outside his cell malfunctioned. His cellmate had been moved earlier. He had been taken off suicide watch just days before. 2 guards on duty fell asleep and failed to check on him. A pathologist hired by his brother concluded the injuries were more consistent with homicide than suicide. The DOJ concluded that his death was a suicide, but nearly 2/3 of Americans say they don't believe that. And polls show most Americans think the government is deliberately withholding information. This is where part 1 of the Jeffrey Epstein story ends, but the real truth is still hidden. In part 2, we will expose the files, the connections, and the powerful names that were never meant to be public. If you think Epstein acted alone, part 2 will change everything.